Hello, everyone. Again, I wanted to go through this Prezi with you. I'm not going to read the speech, but I have provided the text, and you also have the embedded video of Ronald Reagan reading the speech to help you. I will kind of go over the questions with you, but it'll be up to you to enter the information into the sheet for the questions. So, this speech is about the Challenger shuttle disaster. This one actually did happen in my lifetime. It was from 1986, so I was about 5 or 6 years old when this happened. And here's what happened. The Space Shuttle Challenger disaster occurred on January 28th, 1986, when Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart 73 seconds into its flight, leading to the deaths of its 7 crew members. The spacecraft disintegrated over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of central Florida at 11:38 Eastern. Disintegration of the vehicle began after an O-ring seal in its right solid rocket booster failed at liftoff. The O-ring failure caused a breach in the SRB joint it sealed, allowing pressurized hot gas from within the solid rocket motor to reach the outside and impinge upon the adjacent SRB attachment hardware and external fuel tank. In other words, pressurized hot gas escaped from the engine and destroyed the rocket booster. This caused the whole thing to explode in midair. So there's a picture of the 7 astronauts that were on board that lost their lives. One of them was a teacher who had won a contest. I thought it was going to show us this picture. So these are the rocket boosters here. There's O-rings that separate the different parts. Those of you that have worked with plumbing or automotive know that some O-rings kind of prevent and make things sealed so they can't mix. Some background information on this is they had already delayed the liftoff a couple times and didn't want to delay it anymore. Some of the scientists at NASA were saying, yeah, we should probably call this off because it's just too cold and icy for us to do this. And they were kind of overrode on that note. So this tragedy sadly could have been prevented if the right people would have listened to the scientists who were in the know telling them, no, we probably shouldn't do this today. So that's kind of some background information on what happened. I said I was like 6 when this happened, and I remember it being on TV, kind of like when things happen today, they show a lot of news coverage on it. It was all over television, and I was kind of young to really understand exactly what was going on. But I do remember it happening. I do remember seeing it on TV a lot. So, because it was such a big deal, they were broadcasting the launch live. Okay, many viewed the launch live because of the presence of crew member Krista McAuliffe, the first member of the Teacher in Space project, who would have been in the first Teacher in Space. Media coverage of the accident was extensive. One study reported that 17% of Americans witnessed the launch live, and 85% of Americans surveyed had heard the news within an hour of the accident. So also, Krista McAuliffe's school, her students from school were there, and they were like young kids. I'm not sure what grade they are, but they are younger children. Were there to watch this happen live. So this video, if you want to watch it, it does show the space shuttle explode in the air. But this is like the news coverage. It shows Krista McAuliffe's parents. It shows like all the people that were there to watch it, and you kind of hear Mission Control talking over. And it was from the 80s, so the quality isn't the greatest. But if you want to watch it to see what people on the ground saw that day, like it doesn't show any blood or anything like that. It just shows the explosion itself and you see pieces falling to the ground. But I know that might be upsetting for some people, so you don't have to watch that if you don't want to watch it. Okay. So after this happened, Ronald Reagan was scheduled to give a State of the Union address that night, but instead he spoke about the disaster. He was president at the time. So it says on the night of the disaster, President Ronald Reagan had been scheduled to give his annual State of the Union address. He initially announced that the address would go on as scheduled, but then postponed the State of the Union address for a week and instead gave a national address on the Challenger disaster from the Oval Office of the White House. So this is the video of him giving the speech. I also provided you with the text, and I think the video of him speaking is in with the text. It's the American Rhetoric link. So you can access it from there also. So go ahead and watch the video. Okay. Hopefully you all just watched the video of him giving the speech. Now we need to analyze the speech. We're going to go over the things that we talked about with the other article or the other speech by Martin Luther King. So we're going to talk about structure. We're going to talk about phrase, theme, those 10 elements of speech. You're going to analyze this. So you want to switch over to your elements of speech making. So this one's kind of formatted a little different. You just kind of have to go through and answer the questions on this document. So the occasion you can kind of get from this Prezi, because I don't think it's necessarily in the text. I'm not looking at that site right now. But you can use like the first slide of this Prezi for your occasion, or any information from this Prezi for your occasion. Okay? So the first thing that it asks you is, how does he shake hands with the audience? So how does he greet his audience? So what, and Reagan tells us exactly why he's giving the speech. So what are the two things he wants us to know? What are the two things he seeks to do with this speech? That's question 3. So then 4 is about the form. So where is he giving this speech? And what does he say that's a personal touch? What does he say that kind of gives it a personal, I don't want to say compliment. Like he just adds a personal note to it. What does he say that sounds like, if you were talking to your friend, they might say that. Then part B of that, he wants to know, let's see, what words of comfort did he offer to the families of the 7 astronauts and then the school children of America? What did he tell them to kind of help them cope with this? Find 2 examples of a NAFRA. That's question 5. So for this speech, they're kind of really short, but just look for 2 areas where he kind of repeats the same words a couple of times. If you have trouble with that, you can always message me or email me and I can help you find it. Because it is very brief and very short. It's not as noticeable as some of the other speeches that we've looked at. So question 6, what does he say to honor the 7 astronauts who perished? And then it asks you to describe the future. So it says page 22. There's no page because originally this was done out of the same packet that the introductory address was in. But I've given you the text, so there's no page 22. But he's just asking you how President Reagan describes the future. So what's the theme? What is he wanting everybody to do? Is he wanting us to stop and be sad about this, or is he wanting us to continue on and continue moving forward with space exploration? So 7 talks about a memorable phrase and a sense of completion in one moment. He quotes another poet. And it came from a poem written by John Gillespie Magee, who was a pilot with the Royal Canadian Air Force. when he says, what does he say? It's the very last line of the speech. I gotta find it. It says, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye, they slipped the surly bonds of earth and touched the face of God. So those are quotes from this poem, High Flight, which is on the sheet below. So the question 7 is kind of down below. It says, why do you believe President Reagan chose to quote this poem? In what way does this poem capture the spirit that led to the Challenger 7? So this is just an opinion question. Don't read too much into question 7. You're just saying how they're related. So like I said, if you have specific questions about any of those, another directions say read speech on page 22 of your packet, but I've linked to the actual speech. So just contact me with any questions. I hope this kind of helped you guys know what to do. And let me know if you need any additional resources. Have a great day.